Hey, welcome back to another episode of It's a Football Thing. It's been a little while, a bit too long, some would say, but Scott, the happy gooner, Rob, the Red Devils, unfortunately unable to join us this evening, and one relieved, disappointed, confused Blue here, not so balanced tonight as you'll hear my thoughts on it. But Scott, how you feeling, my man? It's been a little while.
Yeah, man, look, it's international football. We generally do take a break unless it's a big tournament. So nice to refresh. I've been a bit smashed with work, but, back to football, man. Back to football. And as an Arsenal fan, I'm more than happy to talk football these days.
Absolutely. You're marching on your way to a long-awaited return to the Premier League summit, but you got to give credit where it's due. But the real talk, it's not so much what's happening on the field, but more so what's happening off it. Trees are falling down, managers are getting axed, just like the Forest. And you know what? Graham Potter, Brendan Rodgers, they're one of many managers who faced the ill-awaited axe this season. Just some quick reflections. I know we've got a few people in the chat, but why don't we just get straight into it, Scott?
Yeah. Look, obviously, let's start with Rodgers because I know everyone will be dying to hear your thoughts on Potter. But actually, instead of starting with Rodgers, let's rewind a little bit because we also saw Conte go during the break. This was coming. Conte and Spurs, it was on the decline, and you could see this divorce coming a mile away. So I wasn't shocked. This is Conte. This is nothing new. He'd had a few meltdowns, but at the moment, I think it was just too much for him. So he's now gone from Spurs. We've got Rodgers.
Best for both parties, I thought, just quickly on Conte. Yeah. It was just a matter of when, not if.
Yeah, I just think, and guys in the chat, let me know, is this Spurs' fault or is this Conte's fault? Because, I mean, you've gone to Spurs knowing how Levy operates. You don't have to be a genius to know how Spurs operate. They're doing okay. I don't know how they're still clinging to top four chances, but Conte just never really looked happy. We know he's a winner. We know Spurs don't win. I'm just not sure, man. What do you think? Who's playing?
Yeah, look, I just want to say on Conte, obviously we've had him at Chelsea. I've had him at Inter Milan. He's a perennial winner. But unfortunately, rightly or wrongly, Controversy always seems to follow him wherever he goes. And I think it's just because he's a highly passionate character. And sometimes, for better or worse, his emotions get the better of him. And he ends up becoming a bigger disruption than a success story wherever he ends up going or leaving from. But I read some stats the other day comparing his managerial success or record at the club relative to other managers, and he's right up there with Pochettino, if I'm not mistaken. So, look, for as much complaining as he did, you would think that he was in, and he did a lot. You would think, though, that Tottenham are where Chelsea are at. But that's sort of speaking volumes in terms of just how much of a winner he is, that he doesn't accept being in a top four. But look at this list. This is an incredible list. That's a lot of names, Scott. Like, just looking at that. So to your question, I think it's more so, I'd say it's more so the Tottenham board rather than Conte or the players, because they've allowed this situation to spiral out of control. But looking at this Premier League manager departure, Scott, who out of this list surprises you the most? Yeah, it is a record season. But who surprises you the most on this list? I've got a feeling, but who surprises you the most out of this sacking list?
Look, Thomas Tuchel at the time sacked me. And
I thought you were going to say that.
I know Borche, the Clip King's in here. I can't remember for the life of me if it was on his preview, but I distinctly remember saying Potter will not see out the season. He'll be sacked before the end.
I remember. It was a good call.
I said it multiple times. I can't remember if it was on his. The Clip
King. It was here too. You did say it, and I actually take the L because I said, Scott, no, it's a long-term plan. Just he'll have some bumps, but they won't get rid of him. They're too invested, blah, blah, blah. And now I've got the egg on my face. But Thomas Tuchel, you say here, for me, I would say, yep, he's right up there, especially what's unfolded. But I've also got to say I was pretty surprised with how it spiraled out of control for Vieira, because I thought he was doing really well at Crystal Palace for 1 point. And even to a lesser extent, I will say Stevie G, because I thought with Aston Villa, the investment they made, I didn't expect it to go south as quickly as it did for him.
Oh, look, it just slipped away from Stevie. So These things happen, but I don't think they're regretting the Unai Emery appointment. I mean,
No, he's done well.
Unai doesn't play the most eye-watering football, but he's a results-driven manager. Now, thinking back, because I want to get to Potter in a second, and the live chats here, drop a like on the video, guys. Let us know your thoughts on Graham Potter's sacking at Chelsea and who you think will take over. But Potter, I feel like I'm tooting my own horn, but I was right on this situation. I did a stream with a friend of ours, Miz, months ago, and we were kind of comparing Arsenal's process and then talking about this new exciting Potter process starting at Chelsea. And I said to Miz at the time, I said the Chelsea fan base is not the kind of fan base that will tolerate a process. Now, I wanted Arteta sacked at a point. I'm not saying I'm the kind of person who tolerated the process. I'm reaping the rewards of it now. But your fan base has been so used to a cutthroat culture, to non-stop winning at all costs, that I never felt your fan base was going to buy in to a longer-term project. And who's to say Potter wouldn't have got it right? We don't know. All the evidence that we could see doesn't point that way. But he'd brought over his analytics team. He brought over a bunch of staff. He'd been given a whole range of players. You have to wonder if he may have been able to turn this around eventually. Again, evidence, probably not. But look, I'm dying to know your thoughts. I haven't even texted you on this today. I wanted to wait till tonight. Potter is out. How are you feeling, boss?
Been doing a lot of reflecting, mate, because you know me, I'm someone that probably frustrate yourself and others at times, thinking, how can you be so patient? How can you be so calm and relaxed and blah, blah, blah. But it's just a natural way I try to think about things. And I just thought I was someone that benefited from the days of chaos and trophies. You know, best part of my growing up, got to see us riding the Chelsea Avalanche and the roller coaster. And I was all for it. But at times it was quite fatiguing seeing one manager in, one manager out, one manager in, blah, blah, blah. With Graham Potter, I really, really did want it to work out for him. I wanted us to turn the chapter. I wanted us to say, we've put the old regime behind us. We're a club that backs something, trusts the process, and eventually that resolve will pay off. I had that confidence and belief, but to be fair, it was quite hard to stay with that resolve because simply the results, the manner in which we were losing, it was just simply untenable. And like the statement said, a lot of people have a lot of respect for Graham Potter as what he's achieved at a lower clubs as a coach, and also what he's done as a person, because despite all of the heat, all of the scrutiny he copped during press conferences, I felt for the most part he conducted himself in a way and handled the heat. There was an argument whether or not this job was too big for him, and ultimately that's proved to be the case. But what I will say for him is that there were moments where I thought, okay, I can see what's happening here. We've got a few good results against Dortmund, against AC Milan. We started to play some decent football, but then you have a terrible loss against Southampton, a tragic loss against Aston Villa. Now, the purists will turn around and say, but look at our statistics. We should have won that game comfortably. That's not his fault. He's not the one missing the goals. Totally agree. But yeah, and look, it is true to an extent. He's not the one making that defensive header Kukurea makes. He's not the one Mudryk not squaring it to Havertz for an open goal, blah, blah. But what he is responsible for is A, picking the players. So why did he not pick Reece James starting a right wing back and he had two centre defenders that he could have put in his space? Why? Firstly, why did he play Mudryk up front starting along Havertz, who we know, again, Havertz is not an out-and-out striker? These are managerial, tactical decisions he does have control over. And also, his substitutions have been very, very questionable, if I'm putting it lightly. We're losing the other day, or we're winning 1-0 against Everton, and he brings on Conor Gallagher. Like, you've got all of this attacking talent. What would make you think you need to shut up shop against a team that hasn't stepped in your half for the best part of an hour and you invite them back in the game? So again, all of these things got people questioning as to why does he not use the full talent at his disposal, and ultimately became too much for him then. And so long and short of it, Scott, it sucks because it's another narrative that puts a lot of shade on Chelsea, but at the same time, it was a decision that needed to be made. I felt like how long's a piece of string? You can't just keep stretching this out, because as much as I like the guy as a person, he seemed nice enough. It's a results-driven business. Chelsea isn't a traditionally patient club. And I would defend the club by saying we've been hasty in this decision, because if anything, he was probably more at risk of being sacked a couple of months ago. We have given him a chance to try to turn it around, but 11th place, negative goal difference, just can't keep going like this. So I think they're right. That's life. And I think they made the right decision in the end. And that's where I'll leave it.
There's a couple of comments and a question from Shane in the chat too that I want to get to in a sec. But I'm hearing you there saying the club were patient, the club gave him time. Some of this blame, and I've been doing a lot of like paperwork today and online work. So I've been listening to the radio at points in the background and talk sport a lot. Heard a lot of different things. One thing that I heard today was Chelsea should have known what they were in for, and your ownership group, Bowley should have done their due diligence. This is a multi-million-pound mistake.
Yeah.
Connor never settled on a particular lineup at Brighton. He always rotated players out of position. It seemed to work fine. They backed him with the team. I don't believe for a second, RJ, and again, I'm not in the know. This is just my gut guess. I don't think Graham Potter walked into Bowley's office and said, mate, go and get me Mudryk. Go and get me this Mudryk fella. He looks the real deal. I need him. Go and get him. I feel like Todd Bowley and the structures he put in place don't give the manager full trust and full faith. He gave him time, but what he did in chucking all those players at him, and yeah, it's good to have players, but chucking all those players at him, and I doubt Potter wanted half of them, and then expecting him to be able to find the chemistry and the balance and that consistent starting lineup when that's not even his MO. I feel like, yes, Potter was hopeless. And I called that he wouldn't last the season. He wasn't a good match for Chelsea. But I also think this shows Todd Bowley's footballing inexperience and some poor acumen from them to have gotten this position in the first place.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree that this is probably a good case study into how not to go about taking over a football club and operating your first 6 months in charge. I think we've made a lot of mistakes. I am conscious though that this is a heat of the moment sort of commentary. And while it's looking like we've got lots of eggs on our faces as Chelsea and the board and Bowley and co, I do genuinely believe though that despite this difficult period, we have done the right thing in still securing a lot of these top talented youngsters that will in the future flourish. Just need to ride this wave. And look, yeah, there's a fair argument for you got rid of a very experienced Champions League winning manager for someone that's managed very well at a lower tier club that, as it's turned out, has failed to get the most out of his highly talented young squad and mixture of different dynamics. Yep. What I will say for Graham Potter is that what is unusual for him and for any other manager, frankly, at this stage is, I know it sounds funny, but he actually had too many players at his disposal. You had a bloated squad, and with the bloated squad, we all know what it's like. We've all seen it with our clubs. Even when you haven't got as many as we do, the players that aren't getting picked regularly are the ones that are more likely to cause a stir up in the dressing room because they're missing out. So imagine all of these other top quality players that would be starting in most other clubs that are left out on the bench, not even in the squad. You even saw players like Aubameyang liking a comment or a tweet saying Potter got sacked. So who really knows just how difficult he was trying to keep it all together? But I agree with your point. I do think that he was someone
Shared accountability.
Well, he would go along. You're the board, you're the boss, and you say, yep, I'll make it work. You just give me the tools, the players you want, and I'll make it work. So he probably had a can-do attitude, but probably what worked against him is he probably wasn't frank and involved enough to say, is this really what we need? Because, put it this way, we spent a lot of money, record transfers for the future, but they're good now.
Spend a lot of money. I don't think these were Potter's
the club. But the point is, despite the mammoth amount of money spent, we still needed a genuine first choice goalkeeper.
Yep.
Still needed a proper DM, not Enzo because he's not a DM, he's a CM and he's done fantastic, but a proper DM and a proper striker, a number 9. How can we spend that much amount of money and not address these key areas of the squad that have been a problem? So that's a board issue. Anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Let's look at some of the comments from the chat. There's a few Chelsea fans in here, of course. Let us know who the next manager will be. But a question from Shane. If Ange left Celtic right now, would you take him?
No.
Ange Postecoglou. No.
No. And the reason why is because I actually would want, similar to how I felt with Graham Potter and how I felt about Frank Lampard at the time when he was at Derby, I felt like their ascendancy should be more gradual. And because of the club, because I know how Chelsea operates, they don't give you that environment of stability and patience and all of the tools. So no for Ange, but I do want him to succeed.
You're not a project club. You're just not the
well, not now. We haven't demonstrated that we are. No. Not yet.
From Declared here, good to see him back in the live chat. Potter was the most offended manager I've ever seen. Chelsea are open to a long-term process, but there has to be stepping stones. Yeah, look, I mean, we've chatted a little bit about this point. I still don't think that the majority of your fan base who have been spoiled, very spoiled, and I say that with a little bit of envy. If I was a Chelsea fan, I would have loved watching them win European Cups and play some of the great football they played, winning football. But I don't think your fan base is down for it.
But it's also, look, I think for Declared's point of view, because the fall of grace has been so dramatic, like, again, I can't emphasize this enough. We're in 11th position, negative goal difference. We did have a lot of players out for a while, which I hauled out, and FPL Rubber Ducky mentioned as well. That was stuff beyond his control. But in recent times, the last couple of months where we have had players returning and we have had the transfer window, some of those results, again, have been unacceptable. And there's only so much you can blame the individual errors here. So look, again, it just wasn't enough progress to keep him in the position.
This one from Khan. Chelsea are used to big personalities as managers. Bowley and co hurried through the decision in hiring Potter. I feel like Bowley's intentions were good. Like, they wanted to set up this longer term data kind of process, but Brighton had to be that way because they didn't have A, the expectation, B, the funds. Chelsea had both of those things. Such a different environment.
And also, I was just going to say, like in a normal setup, you have a settled board, a settled set of technical directors, football directors. You've got a roughly settled squad. How it transpired, you had a new ownership come in. They got rid of a manager. They brought someone in. And then they decided, or not decided, but as it turned out, the footballing department came in after the fact. So that's not a normal sequence of events. Normally you have your Christopher Favels, your football technical director saying, hang on, here's our shortlist. These are the players we need. Let them handle it, not the person who doesn't have any experience dictate the terms. So that's where it was all disjointed for us.
Yeah, well said, mate. Well said. Thank you for the comment, Khan, as well. Declared thinks Nagelsmann will be the next manager. He ticks a lot of boxes for Bowley because Bowley wants to become a bit of a brand. And the technical directors worked with him. We'll have to wait and see. I think you need to get Chelsea under Bowley right before they can worry about a brand. Sauce back in the chat. Hello, Saucy. Nice to see you. And a few things here from Rubber Ducky, and then we'll move on. Last words on Chelsea. Potter took over a declining squad, had to deal with injuries and transfers. The Villa game's a great example of individual errors that Potter got blamed for, and it's true. Some of the finishing from your play, atrocious. Most disappointing element of Potter getting the sack is the rotating doors still in operation. And finally, on social media, the majority of fans are 25 to 30 and have been spoiled. Yeah.
Yeah, but again, hang on. What I'll say that, and I'd love to chat separately on this. Yeah, the rotating door is there. But again, if we kept going into decline on 38 points with the players at our disposal and no sustainable signs of improvement, we had the 2 wins recently, albeit the old Dortmund one was very good. Over the whole 31 games he's been in charge and at 29% win rate, at what point is it just the players here at fault? And what's the tolerance level for the board? Do they have to finish 15th, 16th, 17th to say enough's enough? Like, I don't necessarily buy that rotating door under Bowley stuff because it's not really fair. You made a bad business decision. It doesn't mean you just stick by your guns and don't correct that bad decision. So I don't know. It's a big lesson learned for Chelsea, a very expensive one as it turned out.
Yeah, that's it. Look, I guess you guys can put your eggs in this man's basket. Hope that the new gaffer, some breaking news here. New gaffer has been announced. He goes by the initials of BS because he's full of it. But let's see if this guy can take Chelsea to the next side.
He's a serious-looking manager there, man. I think so. He could do a good job. Yeah, well, what can you do? But he looks like the real deal.
That's it. Congrats, RJ. Yeah, BS is rich at Chelsea. We found plenty of that there over the years. But let's see how he goes. Let's move on. We've talked 20 minutes on the managers that are gone, managers that were underperforming. Let's talk about guys who are overperforming or doing a great job. Mikel Arteta, Pep Guardiola. City went in. They went down to Liverpool early, and I was thinking, you beauty. Here we go. Mo Salah, magic baby. And
he was offside.
Yeah, look, I would have taken it, man. And then they just turned into normal Liverpool. Disappointed, let the lead go. City turns it on. No striker. Who cares? Who cares?
Beautiful goals, but some of the passing sequences were unbelievable.
Yeah. Jack Grealish, for me, had a phenomenal game. One of the best games I've seen him play. Even thinking back to his Villa days, he really stepped up. So big points to City. And they were under pressure too because I think who played first? I believe we played
they
first.
did. They played the first game, Saturday night game.
They were first.
Yeah.
Sorry, so then that pressure was put on us, RJ, and I was really happy to see my boys just blow leads off the park. Did you catch any of the highlights from our match?
Yeah, I did. I watched the extended version, but just on City for a moment, what I will say is that as soon as they went behind, because I actually thought they started off quite well, I never felt doubtful that they weren't going to win that game despite conceding against the run of play. Who I thought played really well for City is obviously Jack Grealish got man of the match, but De Bruyne showed his class.
Yep.
But for me, a lot of people had doubts because Haaland was out, but Julian Alvarez, my goodness.
Not a bad backup.
If I'm Chelsea, I'm the new manager of the new board. Any good club worth their weight will go after Julian Alvarez and say, you can be the number one at our club. Don't worry about playing second fiddle to Haaland. You're a top striker. You're a World Cup winner. You need to be the number one striker. Come join us. But I just thought, what a great game he had. That pass he did for the second goal, top shelf.
Mate, look, let's move on to us because we are in the Easter season and we know that Jesus rose at Easter and Jesus rose against Leeds. Tell you what,
wow.
I was watching godly football because we just turned it on, really turned it on against Leeds. Exciting football. Ben White scoring goals, Jesus on the double, Granit Xhaka popping up in the box. This is a confident Arsenal team. I can't remember the last time we played with this much swagger. You can just see that every single player in that squad believes that we'll win the match, no matter what happens in the context. Leeds weren't great, but we were, and I think we made them look worse. So to have that pressure on with Man City winning earlier and then do that, something has clicked at Arsenal. And God, I'm hoping it clicks for 9-10 more games. We just needed to keep clicking. I'm hoping that Liverpool don't turn on against us because I'd love to beat them. I feel a hell of a lot better when that game's done.
Yeah, you know what though? I thought, because I did again catch the extended highlights of that match. Leeds started off really well. They were on, they could have easily been up, and and it wouldn't have been undeserved. But then the penalty changed the match, and you guys blew them off the park in that second half. So I do wonder against better teams, would Arsenal get the wobblies? Because again, Leeds are not the best team. You've made it count in the end, but I do wonder. Is this something where you get nervous as an Arsenal fan now? I know you just said that they're playing for each other.
Every match now. Every match is a cup final, RJ, and we know that if we drop, we've got City hunting us down. Like, these are guys that have been there, done that, and they're ruthless. So, yeah, mate, every match is nervous now. Khan in the chat saying Arsenal playing scintillating football. I'm not taking any congratulations for the title yet because we haven't done it. There's a lot of work to do. I'm not getting caught in the trap I got caught in last year when I said top 4 is a lock, and then it was locked to Tottenham Hotspur.
Hey, quick fire for you. I got a quick fire for you,
hit me.
Scott. For Arsenal, who is the most important player now?
Bukayo Saka.
You know who I'd say? Maybe a bit of a random one, but Odegaard. I don't know. I just think some of that passes he does, the influence, his leadership, I think it probably doesn't get praised enough, but I've got high praise for him.
Yeah, look, that's a good point. The thing for me is if we lose Odegaard, we then shift someone into that middle position. I mean, you can possibly play Trossard there.
He's been brilliant, by the way. He's been really solid.
Top signing. Things have just clicked this year. So I've been really happy. But probably at the moment, you'd almost argue as well Gabriel Magalhaes, because Saliba's out. Rob Holding played a part in the Leeds game. But if we lost Gabriel now, we're in big trouble. I'd almost think we're having to draw. I don't even know who we drop. Can Jorginho play centre back? It's just
we wouldn't want him on last man defender.
No, God, sure. He's got plenty of pace to burn. But yeah, we've got a lot of important players. But what gave me confidence, and I want to talk about Manchester United now, because I saw a funny tweet where someone said, "You're telling me the difference between Ole and Eric Ten Hag was Casemiro," obviously making reference to the fact that they didn't have Casemiro and they got done by Newcastle. We lost Gabriel Jesus at the start of the season for months, and we still managed to move on so seamlessly. That's what gives me so much confidence in the squad. I look at Manchester United this morning, and I'll confess I didn't watch the full match. I did watch the extended highlights of this, but Newcastle, for me, were very deserved winners. United, I don't know tactically what was going on with Ten Hag, even some of the subs, and he's a great manager. And United, I still think, make the top 4, but I don't know what the hell happened this morning. What did you make of that?
Well, even Ten Hag came out. Luke Shaw said they had the players-only meeting. They were very honest, I would say. They didn't come out and blame anybody or say, "Oh, we got the wrong rubber to green, blah, blah, blah." They were very honest and said we were flat. We just didn't turn up. We're losing all of the duels. Newcastle just really pinned them back. And like Poche said, they were horrible. You saw it. They were just losing all the 50-50s. It was a funny performance because I expected better from Manchester United. Look, every team goes through it, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see if this is just a little blip, which I suspect it is for Manchester United, but it's more of a positive injection for Eddie Howe. You talked about overperforming managers. Talk about a good young manager that's sort of plying his trade and learning. He's a great example of the manager that I wish we had that sort of rose to the status that he's building at Newcastle. But yeah, I thought they did well, man. And just on your boys again, congratulations to, I think Arteta won Manager of the Month, and I think Saka as well. So that was well deserved. Yep, well deserved.
This guy, Bruno Fernandes, Borch in the chat saying he needs to be dropped now. He spends more time in the game with his arms up and tears rolling down his cheek than he does doing anything. If I was a United fan, I think this guy would drive me absolutely mental, because let's not get stuff mixed up. He's got talent. He's a good passer of the ball. He's got good vision,
doesn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, he can do great things, but as Shane said, you get Bruno Fernandes into a big game, and I know people might be able to find 1, 2, 3 or 4 examples of a big game where he's done well, but by and large, he's not a big game player. Emad's saying it, Shane's saying it. He just doesn't perform in these games. He doesn't perform. I think he's someone that they could possibly upgrade on. in at the end of the season. Do you think he's someone that they could look to cash in on or upgrade on, or do you think he's long-term Manchester United player?
No, I do. I agree with that, and tend to agree with a lot what's been said in the chat too. For me, I've always seen him as like you said, a good talent, got great vision. He can execute a pass that few others can do, but I don't necessarily call him a leader. I don't call him super consistent. And when the going gets tough, I don't see him as the player to drag the players from out of the depths and help them rise to the occasion. So he's a fair weathered player. When you're going well, he'll add the extra polish, but when it's bad, he's really at the heart of that. So yeah, if I'm in Manchester United, I'd be listening to all offers because I think they can both be doing better for themselves. Because I reckon, put it this way, if he was to go to Spain or go to Italy, mate, his name would be at the top of the charts again in terms of the number of assists and stuff he would make, just purely because of the lesser physicality of these other leagues. So, yeah.
Yeah, fair shout. United fans, if you've got any comments you want to make in the chat, go for goal. But while we were away on break, fun stuff always happens when we're having a bit of a break. The Premier League Hall of Fame, we had two GOATs, Arsene Wenger, Sir Alex Ferguson.
Two GOATs here, Scott.
Yeah, that's it. There are two GOATs here, but two GOATs are now there. Fergie and Wenger, both deservedly so, being inducted into the Hall of Fame. These are guys that, and we talked about this on our Wednesday video a month or two ago, where we reflected on the managers, but both these guys changed English football for the better. Fergie, for me, there's no debate between the two. Fergie was the better manager, most successful manager for me. But Arsene Wenger, I think, was really pivotal in shaping a lot of modern coaching. Like a lot of the ways he came in and against the culture, he changed that drinking culture. He really worked on their diet, their exercise, all of that. He was a genius, man. So I think both very deserving. But we also have some players who are up for nomination, up for votes to get in there. Did you have anything you wanted to add on Wenger and Fergie, Arj, before I put the list up?
I think they deserve it, definitely. And we did ask our viewers and followers in their prime who would you think was the better manager? Naturally, Sir Alex does pip him, but it doesn't diminish what Wenger's done. What I would say, and take the salt with it what you will, Mourinho's got to be part of that conversation. He had revolutionised what he'd done in the Premier League. He'd done it twice, won the Premier League back to back. He came back. We had that stream where we spoke about the managers that have done great things for our clubs. So for him to not already be in the conversation for Premier League Hall of Fame, I found that a little bit interesting. Let's call it that.
I dare say he'll be there in a couple of years. I do wonder if his Tottenham stint hurt and the real negative ends.
But Tottenham hurts everybody, Scott. Tottenham hurts everyone.
Hey, he still took the cash, didn't he? But I wonder if that hurt him. And I think the fact that he's still quite active, they seem to be doing these things once managers are no longer active. So we'll have to wait and see. But let's look at the list. I think this is the last topic we'll really go through tonight. These are some of the players. These are all of the players who have been nominated in this batch. Some very good players. I almost hate doing this because no matter what, you've got players on there that are so good. I mean,
just induct them all. I say they're fantastic.
Yeah, that's it. Bort saying Jose will be there. Don't worry. Yeah, I agree. He'll be there eventually. The special one. Fergie wasn't a tactician, unlike Wenger. He was very much a manager of his period and was out of date at the end. Yeah, fair shout. I think you can make that argument for both, though. Wenger and Fergie, probably both towards the end. But Fergie managed to leave with a title, so it's hard to make that point. Let's look here. If you had to pick two of these guys, RJ, who are you sending and why?
Who would I pick into the Hall of Fame now or get rid of?
Yeah, if you could pick two of these.
To get in, I would say, as for me, for being biased, the captain, leader, legend, John Terry, I think I would pick him. No, I definitely would. And really the other one, it's a tough one because I don't necessarily like picking from the same position. That is a tough one for me. So because some of those names, wow. It's just tough, man. I don't know. Can you buy me one? You pick one.
Can I ask you a question about Terry?
Sure.
Excellent defender, right? Excellent, top tier, one of the greatest. Like we saw with Ryan Giggs. You remember when we had this chat about Giggs and some of the off-field stuff kind of harming his chances. Do you think with Terry, who was involved in some controversy, there was some alleged racism, there was the stuff with Wayne Bridge, well, Mrs. Bridge at the time, do you think that could harm his chances? I know it shouldn't be political,
Yeah.
but it can be. I don't know. Do you think it could? I'm not even taking the piss. I'm just curious in your thoughts.
Yeah, look, you never know if there's like a conduct element or reputation angle to it, then they might factor that in possibly. But look, like I said, FER Abadaki, got some good names. Like big fan of what Ashley Cole done because he did it at Arsenal, did it at Chelsea as well. So he was a consistent winner. Michael Owen, another top shout. But again, even what Thingy did, Andy Cole at Man United, like again, all of these names in the list, your boys at the top. Good luck picking it because they all deserve to be on the list. I know that sounds like a fence-sitting answer, but I would probably throw balanced now, John Terry, and yeah, I probably would agree with FPL. Football Capital here, Michael Owen.
Yeah, look, I think John Terry's certainly of the caliber to be in there, but I do think they set a bit of a precedent with Giggs, and I do wonder if that could come back for Terry. I don't know, and I hate John Terry anyway. That's not a secret.
He's our guest next week, mate. Have some respect.
Oh, there you go. Look, I'm not completely biased because I'm going to say Ashley Cole, because I think in terms of his legacy, despite the fact that he's a snake, he managed to be a pivotal part of Arsenal's success and their kind of golden times. And then he was a pivotal part of Chelsea's success and their golden times. Ashley Cole, for me, phenomenal left back, phenomenal player. I think he'll be one of the guys who's inducted. I had a bit of a giggle at Defoe. I'm like, you're having a laugh.
I was about to ask you that. Did you notice one or two players that snuck their way onto this list like we would have noticed?
Pity party for Daniel Levy. I would probably then say, it's hard. It's really hard because I look at Tony Adams and Sol Campbell and I know they're phenomenal players, but I think it's hard to argue with Michael Owen. I mean, he's goal scoring prowess, again, a Ballon d'Or winner. Hard to argue with Owen.
What about our goalkeepers, Scott, that don't get any love? Like Petr Cech, obviously didn't do well at Arsenal. Yeah, well, perhaps maybe in an alternate universe, but in the real one, what he did do at Chelsea in terms of like the record, the Premier League record, the 15 goals, probably won't be beaten. Like, I mean, I wonder, fans, pundits, decision makers, quick to overlook goalkeepers like they tend to do for like Ballon d'Or and stuff. And I know Donnarumma had his win, but we didn't even talk about someone like Petr Cech. Is he a genuine shout here or no for you?
Not this time round, not with that competition on there, because I think the thing with goalkeepers, and it's probably not fair for them, but a lot of their success is judged in relation to their defenders. He played behind what was one of the most staunch and excellent defenses I've ever seen in that Chelsea back four. So I think that helped him. We kind of saw when he came to Arsenal, even though it was more at the tail end of his career, when he didn't have that defense in front of him, I mean, he didn't set the world on fire for us. So I just don't think Petr Cech yet. I don't know if they almost need to separate goalkeepers to these things, but I can't see Petr getting a shout. I think he's long odds, man.
Who do you think's the most underrated player on this list? While you have a think, I'll tell you my one, Michael Carrick. I think he's the most underrated one. He's probably not spoken about like your Rio Ferdinands, your Ashleys, your JTs. But yeah, for me, Michael Carrick, I think, was a top player and probably doesn't get spoken about enough just because of all of the other fantastic centre mids, both at his club and other English ones around him just before his time.
Most underrated. God. I mean, can you say any of these guys are underrated if they're on this list at the moment?
Well, a good point. Good point.
Yeah, look, I don't know. I don't think any of them are underrated, but I look at Defoe on there and it's kind of like, which one doesn't belong? That one. But look, it's going to be interesting. We'll wait and see what the results of this all are, and then we'll have some more players in the Premier League Hall of Fame. But until then, no Wednesday video this week. We'll be back next Monday for you all, recapping the football. Anything you wanted to add, my man?
Yeah, well, it's a huge day in terms of the Chelsea to Leicester world. Probably, I'd say check your phones closely to see what's happening, because I dare say, Tottenham will probably get the likes of Rodgers in. Where will Graham Potter go now? Will Chelsea get Nagelsmann? Who knows what's going to happen in the manager space? But we've also got some midweek action as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what changes, if any, happen to the ladder when we get together again next Monday.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we know it'll be a good time. Always plenty to discuss. Keep an eye on our socials. Just give me his moment. Yes.
Banned, blocked.
Yeah, kicked from the chat. Enjoy it, mate. Enjoy it. It was just two teams not playing crash hot football. But your team played the better of the two teams playing not crash hot football. If you haven't already, I'm just going to give it a plug with no Wednesday video. We did a video a couple of weeks back where we called it a walk down memory lane, and it was reflecting on Arsene Wenger, Sir Alex Ferguson, and Jose Mourinho and the impacts they had on the league and their clubs. If you haven't checked that one out and you're feeling a little bit lonely during the week, missing some content, go and check that out. I hit the record button at the end to stop, and I thought that was a really good fun stream, and it's a good one when you've enjoyed it. So check that one out. RJ, closing thoughts, man.
Just want to say it's great to be back talking football. I had a nice time to reflect, but now that it's back, we're back, and hope to see you all back next Monday.
That's it. And go check the podcast out. I know they were on. Tom was on live earlier. If you want some more detailed insights on the United and, the United derby, Newcastle, Manchester. But it was certainly Newcastle who looked much more united this morning, and that's why they got the 3 points. Take care, everyone. Enjoy your football. Look after each other, and a happy Easter to those celebrating on the weekend, and a happy Ramadan to those who are celebrating that as well. Take care, everyone.